and I am leaving Land Between the Lakes. And my next destination I'm planning on is Illinois. Southern Illinois in the Shawnee National Forest. My last video was about camping at the Land Between the Lakes for 2 weeks. That video ended up being an audio diary of sorts, of sounds I heard each night over the course of those 2 weeks. I ended up staying for one more week, and in that last week, I captured some pretty interesting vocals and a few other sounds. I also filmed driving down some of the roads on a foggy night, which is what you're looking at now. Since I titled this video Bigfoot Yells in the LBL, I will start with that. I titled it with a question mark since I don't know for certain if it was a Sasquatch. That being said, with what I've heard from descriptions and in real life on occasion, I don't have another way to describe how this sounds to me. There are 2 vocals, and I think one could have been a response to the other. They both remind me of some other recordings which I'll mention after I play them. Here's what I recorded. Here it is once more. I don't think anyone was around, and even if they were, these don't really sound human to me. I get a sense of a large lung capacity in the second vocal. I wonder if I captured 2 Sasquatch communicating. I must admit, all of the descriptions of their vocals really fascinate me, and it has made me hope to possibly capture some at some point. The first vocals remind me of a recording captured by the late Scott Carpenter. It's in a video titled Sasquatch Vocals. It was also in Les Stroud's Survivorman Bigfoot episode in the Smoky Mountains with Scott Carpenter. The second vocals reminded me of a recording sent in to Steve Istall of How to Hunt. Check out this portion of the video sent in to Steve.
You hear that? Get Trevor. Austin, get the light. Fuck. Hey! That was not an elk. Where's that coming from? Get my keys. Oh, get ready. Everybody, get in my truck!
That reminds me not only of the second vocals, but if those were possibly words, they sound quite similar. Even though it was a bit more aggressive sounding in Steve's recording, the actual voice resembles the one I recorded. Here's my recording once more. Here's just the vocals in question from the How to Hunt video. Here's the ones I recorded one more time. Why make such a fuss about a couple vocals? Because they are so rare. I've scanned the internet to listen to Sasquatch vocals. I also am fascinated by them, the power, etc. You hear about these incredible vocals and many experiences shared. and a fraction of them, if that, are captured in a recording. Understandably so, since recording is often the last thing on the experiencer's mind. I also recorded a few other vocals I found a bit odd over the course of my 3rd week at the Land Between the Lakes, along with a few other sounds that stuck out. Here's what I recorded during the last week. Then I'll play some more vocals that had me wondering after that. I will add notes during the sounds. In this one, I was cutting tomatoes. You'll hear me cutting a few times, and then in between a few chops, it sounds like 2 light knocks. Then you'll hear a couple more chops, finishing the tomato. Then I walked over to the mic to take verbal note, and then after that you'll hear a single knock sound. Pretty sure I just heard like 2 light knocks as I was cutting my tomatoes. So take a note. Here is another couple vocals that were a bit odd. I'll mark them. Then you'll hear what sounds like 2 knock sounds while I'm listening to a Yowie Central interview. And then you can barely hear something land. In person, I thought it was a break. Now, this last one, which was on my last night there, I wanted to mention it because it reminds me of some things I mentioned in the previous video. One was owl calls, also coyote calls, and the possibility of mimicry. The first call sounds like a hoot owl, aka a barred owl. During the hoots was a few coyote-like vocals, which didn't sound like the typical coyote calls I've heard pretty consistently over the last few years. Close, but just a little different. One thing I noticed in some of the canine-like calls was a seeming overlap between barks and a high-pitched howl. Very subtle, but I did notice it. It was almost like there's 2 subjects making the sounds. And in a few occasions, if you listen real close, you can still hear a bark when the high-pitched howls start. That's something I noticed on the spectrogram. Perhaps a coyote is capable of making that sound. Or maybe there were 2 subjects. I've heard coyotes bark, so that's nothing too odd. But the high-pitched howls sounded a little different to me. It just made me wonder, and with how elusive concrete answers are in the world of cryptids, all we can really do is observe, and take note of certain aspects that stand out in some way. That all being said, I can't say with certainty that this is not simply an owl and coyote, and with what I've learned, I also can't say it definitely is. Either way, they are beautiful vocals, and a bit haunting. There's also a quick vocal in a deeper voice. I've heard this a few times in the past. Scott Carpenter also recorded a vocal very similar in the recording I referenced, and in his recording, the deep vocal is right after the yells he recorded that I was comparing to. I'll note where that is. Okay, here's these recordings. After the barks, howls, and hoots, the canine vocals continue on for a little bit. Thanks for listening, if you made it this far. This stuff fascinates me, and for the last couple of years I've been recording audio pretty consistently. And once in a while, something is a bit different, and I really enjoy when that happens. And being able to share it with others who are interested in this mystery. I'm going to play the first vocalizations from this video one more time. Thanks for watching.